LAWsome by Consultwebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.
Hello, all you LAWsome listeners. Today on the show, I'm excited to have Matt Smyers, former attorney who brings more than a decade of experience in legal marketing to his role at Consultwebs as a senior digital advertising advisor. Matt helps law firms and clients connect through strategic planning and execution of digital advertising campaigns, using a variety of platforms including Google Ads, Facebook, other social platforms, Bing, Yahoo, and virtually any other paid advertising out there. Prior to joining Consultwebs, he ran his own legal marketing agency for nearly 7 years. Today's topic is around agile marketing in the legal profession. Welcome, Matt. Very glad to have you today.
Hi, Tanner. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So this topic is a growing topic in the marketing world, agile marketing. It's a term we're seemingly hearing more and more of these days, and it's said that at least 71% of companies in the U.S. are now actually using some form of agile. But the question is, what is agile marketing in particular, and what does it even mean or represent to law firms? Can you tackle that question for us, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, agile marketing is defined and executed differently for all organizations and within different industries. But for us, an agile marketing structure allows us to allocate advertising budgets from one advertising platform to another, between multiple campaigns and ad platforms in real time based on campaign performance, market conditions, and results. And so really the big difference is it just allows us that flexibility to be nimble with our campaigns in such a fast changing and ever changing environment. I know we joke that what we do oftentimes is like trying to paint a moving train. I think the agile structure allows us to be able to do that much more effectively.
And there's this old adage in marketing that businesses know half their marketing's working, they just wish they knew which half. And I'm sure with respect to agile, lawyers are asking themselves, how do I even know whether agile marketing would be effective for my firm? How would you address that question if it's on the minds of some of our listeners?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always important to have clearly defined objectives and performance metrics for any marketing campaign, regardless of how it's structured. For our clients, the single most important metric is signed cases. Other metrics such as leads, impressions, clicks, interactions, etc., are used by our team internally as key performance indicators that we know will help drive more cases for our clients. So the short answer to your question is law firms will know an agile marketing a campaign is working or it's effective for them when they start seeing more cases coming in the door. The alternative is the old pattern of starting a campaign, running it for 6 months, measure it. Then if it doesn't appear to be working, stop it. Take some more time off to set something else up, measure it, run it, and stop it again, and so on. And so the agile structure really helps to eliminate that downtime from a more of a traditional, waterfall method of try one thing, measure it, stop it, try something else. Really more cases in the door is how we know that it's working. And again, that's the metric for our clients that is really the most important.
Yeah, I would argue that is the single most important factor in virtually any marketing initiative, is to look ultimately at how many cases are stemming from that. But you did reference one term, the waterfall method. So let's take a moment to dive into that. The good old waterfall method. It's been effective for many law firms for a long, long time. It's argued that it could be rather rigid in today's internet world, highly dynamic, lots of changing platforms, one thing working today, not working tomorrow. So the other factor is that it could be challenging to look ahead 12 months. I mean, even 6 months today is a lifetime in digital. And I think that's really where the value of Agile comes in. But would you take a moment, Matt, just to explain the difference between Agile and Waterfall? And is it a one-size-fits-all type of method?
Yeah, and I mean, you basically hit it on the head. One is much more rigid, and the other is much more much more fluid and agile. So waterfall marketing, traditionally, that's the model for marketing, planning, and execution that follows more traditional lines. It's more linear and sequential. The process flows steadily downward, waterfall fashion, through set predetermined phases. It's considered ideal for organizations with highly structured environments and situations where changes after the fact would be cost prohibitive. Agile marketing, on the other hand, and why we think it is a better choice for our law firm clients, involves responding to change more than following a plan. So it's geared towards helping the enterprise better address and respond to fast changing market conditions, which we've already referred to, with campaigns that can be adapted accordingly. It shortens the planning cycle really from months and years, as you had mentioned, to days or weeks. And with the advent of newer advertising platforms like local services ads that do have a tendency to be quite volatile, pay-per-click advertising can be volatile and can be very dependent upon market conditions. We don't want our clients' advertising dollars to sit unused and not being put to good use. So in a particular month, for example, where local services ads might be down and you're not getting the same lead volume, it gives us the flexibility to take those dollars and put them into play elsewhere, where the client is still seeing value and they're constantly putting that money to its best use.
Yeah, maximizing the effectiveness of each dollar and doing so every single month, looking for efficiencies in that. It makes sense. Practically speaking, it's a smart way to manage your marketing dollars. But I think there are other more I would say tactical or process-driven things to consider inside a law firm who may be entertaining this concept of agile marketing. What would you say would be the more relevant changes a law firm would expect in terms of implementing agile, specifically related to their internal processes?
Yeah, I mean, really, as far as the firms are concerned, not a whole lot of change, on their end. Being prepared to handle leads from multiple sources, all of which we handle for the firm, on the setup side of things, to make sure they're prepared to handle those leads. Two of the more significant changes for us internally, it's the setup of multiple campaigns on multiple ad platforms right from the start, as opposed to, as we said, linear one after another. It's all of those campaigns being set up from the beginning. And then beyond that, it's the frequent and constant changes to the budgets between those campaigns, on a weekly or monthly basis. Fortunately, those changes are internal to us and not necessarily something that our clients need to concern themselves with.
You referenced earlier ultimately the most important metric is how many cases are coming from this type of effort, which I would agree with. Extremely important. One of the most important elements for firms is always going to be positive results, right? Profitability, seeing cases come in consistently and doing so in a repeated fashion. What benefits would you outline that law firms would experience in ultimately approaching Agile, specifically from a short-term standpoint?
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges, right? If we look at this in the short term, firms are going to see their monthly budgets being allocated to campaigns that are designed to increase their overall online presence and visibility. These are things that we would consider to be more long-term brand building. We're big believers in having our clients invest in those areas to grow their brand long-term, because what we have seen over the years is that when they do so, they ultimately, over time, start seeing a much better return on investment from what we would consider to be their short-term sales activation strategies or their direct response campaigns, things like pay-per-click and LSA. For many firms, investing in long-term sales growth initiatives, brand building campaigns, is something they've put off really for far too long. But what I would say is that it's never too late to start growing your brand visibility in order to start improving your direct response campaign performance. So I would say in the short term, that would be the most significant change that most of our clients would see, is the investment of resources into those long-term brand building strategies that we know ultimately pay off for them in the long run.
It's my understanding that Consultwebs was the first legal marketing agency to adopt Agile marketing for their law firm clients. And We know that law firms want to navigate challenges and ultimately, more importantly, they want to pursue new opportunities, what's available. And that's the objective that Consultwebs is bringing to the table, at least with respect to how Agile will complement those needs. Speaking of that, what challenges and opportunities can law firms expect if they're partnering with an Agile marketing agency? Can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, in terms of opportunities, right, getting away from that linear approach of, try one thing at a time, one after another after another. The opportunity there is, us as an agency under an Agile structure, we're constantly looking for new opportunities, whether it's within ad platforms that we have a great amount of experience and results, and we're identifying those opportunities in real time for our clients and moving resources into them, or even beyond that, opportunities in new and up and coming advertising platforms. How can firms get involved there and start to capitalize under an Agile structure? For us, that's already included, right? If we have a client that we think might start to invest in TikTok or whatever it might be, the Agile structure is going to allow us to do that. In terms of challenges, it's mostly, again, within the agency, on our end, not with the law firm. An Agile structure requires a lot more work. Frankly, as I mentioned earlier, we're setting up multiple campaigns, a much more robust online advertising profile right from the beginning. And then once the campaigns are up and running, it's that constant monitoring of performance and making slight adjustments to budget and strategy based on market conditions and results. So those are the challenges I think that exist, but those are more really on the agency side than they are on the client side.
Yeah, I mean, as you're explaining this, I really envision a head coach with a deep bench. When you talk about the concept of Agile and being able to have multiple athletes, as a coach to be able to pull in, depending on the strengths, the weaknesses of the opponent, of their defense, of their offense, being able to pull in various team members and athletes to be able to fill, the necessary gaps. It seems like Agile is very similar in how Consultwebs is managing that.
It is, and that's a great analogy, Tanner, because not every campaign is the same. Every market is different. Every law firm is different. Their business objectives are different. They come to us in varying states of brand strength, right? Which may require us to put resources into one platform over another to start building up that brand. So yeah, having that deep bench that is at our disposal, essentially from the word go, with an Agile structure, is just a tremendous advantage, and I think allows us to be highly customizable and responsive to our clients' needs.
I'm certain that there's some listeners here saying, yeah, the concept, the theory sounds great. So if you could take a moment, Matt, just as we wrap up here, give us a quick example of how this concept of Agile works within the Consultwebs framework.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first, like we've just touched on, is that, we're going to provide our client with recommendations, overall budget and strategy based on, what we know about that client, their business goals, what we know about that market, all kinds of things go into that decision-making process, including, past performance of past campaigns for us with other clients all around the country. We're utilizing that data that we have at our disposal from doing this for firms all around the country. We're utilizing that data and past performance to have some type of predictive results that go into creating our campaign recommendations. So once we come to an agreement with the firm on that strategy and that budget, the law firm pays a single monthly payment. And that covers setup fees, the monthly management fees, and the advertising budget. Our reporting dashboard allows our clients to see not only their campaign analytics, but exactly how much is being spent on each ad platform on a monthly basis. So there's complete transparency there. From there, our team sets up the campaigns as required as part of the structure, and then we're launching those campaigns as soon as they're ready to be deployed. And as I said before, then once the campaigns are launched, that's where the magic happens, and we really start to get to work. And a true benefit of an Agile structure is realized. Constantly reviewing performance, budgets, making sure the clients are getting the maximum performance for their advertising campaigns.
Absolutely love the concept, love the innovation. Any final or closing thoughts or advice that you would share with our listeners, Matt, before we close?
Well, I touched on this earlier, but I do think it bears repeating. at Consultwebs, we've been long-time believers in a healthy balance between the long-term brand building campaigns such as YouTube and then the short-term sales activation campaigns such as PPC and LSA. And we kept seeing over the years, without exception, our clients that were investing more heavily in kind of the top-level brand building campaigns, whether it's online or offline, we're seeing much better results in the direct response or short-term sales activation campaigns. So now that we have this agile approach, we've got the freedom and flexibility to invest our clients' advertising dollars where they know it will be best spent. So my advice to law firms who are utilizing a more traditional waterfall approach would be consider going to an agile structure in the hands of an agency that's equipped to respond quickly, which is critical to the ever-changing market conditions in order to get the most of your advertising dollars every month. And just by way of example, when I talk about changing market conditions, that applies to not only obviously the cost of media that we see, whether it's Facebook or PPC, that continues to fluctuate and can rise seasonally at times. But then, ad platforms like local services ads, Google LSA, Google has recently come out with some pretty significant changes to that platform over the last 45 days or so that have caused a lot of our campaigns to have a temporary dip in lead volume. And we're adjusting to that, right? And that's part of this, this process for us of painting that moving train and constantly adjusting. But I think that, the ability to do that is critical. And that's just a really good example of ever-changing market conditions. Historically, maybe if a client is tied up just in LSAs and performance drops, you're looking at, taking a deep dive and saying, well, what else should we be doing? Setting up that campaign from scratch, and there's that lost time that we talked about. With the agile structure, there's no need. If campaign performance drops and we have the resources available, we simply move it into another platform, continue to measure, modify, and adjust on a much more rapid and responsive basis.
Matt, thank you again for joining us and sharing about this concept. For those that are interested in talking to you or reaching out to you with any questions, what's the best way that they can reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this stuff, so I would welcome anybody to reach out to me and set up a time to meet and talk about it. The best way to reach me is always through email. My email is msmyers, so MSMYERS at consultwebs.com, and my full contact information is on my bio page at consultwebs.com.
Thanks again, Matt.
My pleasure.
LAWsome by Consultwebs with Tanner Jones. For show notes, links, and info, go to consultwebs.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Watch for the next LAWsome episode to discover more breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm.